When I hear the phrase, stepping up to the plate, I think about the quiet decisions we make when we realize something needs to be done and no one is assigned to do it. When my son joined the football team at Northwest High School, I asked the coach how meals were handled. I knew from other schools that teams were usually fed the night before football games. He told me they didn't really have a program. Some weeks he said it was a few loaves of bread and peanut butter, whatever he could manage. When I asked why the boys were fed on Friday night instead of the night before, he explained that many of these young men might not get another good meal until they returned to school on Monday. Feeding them before the game wasn't ideal for football, but it mattered more that they were fed. In that moment, I saw a coach carrying far more than coaching, transportation issues, missing equipment, kids doing their best with very little. And I realized that somehow between the school and the parents, there was a gap, and I know gaps don't close themselves. As the first game approached, it became clear that the boys were not going to have a meal unless someone stepped in. So I made a conscious decision, not because I had the extra money or time, but because I felt like this was one of those moments where I either act or I look away. I arranged with my work to take 4 hours of vacation every Friday during football season. I did that for the 4 years my son was at Northwest High School. The meals were simple, sloppy joes, walking tacos, chicken, but they were consistent, and that consistency mattered. Over time, other parents joined in. Coaches scraped together $20 here and there. Boys who had little would start putting a couple of dollars or 75 cents in change on the table every Friday, and the boys who had less were never questioned. What grew wasn't just a meal, it was a shared understanding that everyone mattered and everyone belonged. At home, my kids saw the cost. They knew I was using part of our food budget to do this, and that some weekends meant leftovers from our team meals. And that mattered because I wanted them to understand that service isn't about recognition or writing a check. Sometimes it just looks like showing up again and again where you're needed. By my son's senior year, we weren't just feeding football players. If the choir, band, or theater kids were rehearsing late, they ate too. Custodial staff felt recognized when every Friday we ensured every one of them was fed. And when my son played his last game, although it was bittersweet, I knew it was time for me to step back. Not because the work was finished, but because I trusted that the example I had set would continue. Lent reminds me that stepping up to the plate rarely happens by accident. We prepare for those moments by how we live every day, by paying attention, by letting compassion become muscle memory. The hope isn't that we will rise to the occasion once. It often reminds me of one of Marita's Lenten messages about not letting Lent be a 180 in our lives. It must be a 365. The hope is that when the moment comes, we've already become the kind of people who know how to step forward. Today, for me, this shows up less as running a program and more as choosing my proximity. I've learned that stepping up doesn't always mean leading sometimes. It often means standing with the people who already are. I have a dear friend, Ajamal, who does very important work in this community. And part of how I live now is staying connected, staying in relationship, and showing up when I can. Lending support to the work that's already happening, whether that's helping put on an event, being present, or just standing in solidarity. That football experience taught me that this way of living isn't about doing everything myself. It's about paying attention to where life is already moving and asking, how can I support what good is being done here?